Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we're going to be talking about something that's just a little bit different today. But my guest, my lovely guest, was a suggestion by a friend of mine who I am in a mastermind group with. And he said, "Hey, my sister sings. You should talk to her." Well, we all pay attention when PJ tells us that we should do these things. And so I connected with his sister, who is the absolutely incredibly talented and gorgeous Juliet Ewing. So how are you today, Juliet?
I am fabulously well, Deb. Thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting. And thanks for the
Perfect.
beautiful introduction.
I love it. I love it. We're going to do the whole real introduction here in a second. But yeah, Juliet is an incredible performer. And I have had so much fun getting to know her and hearing her music. And yes, folks, you will be able to hear one of the songs that she does. And so, I really want to make sure that you stay tuned for that. But Juliet Ewing is rapidly becoming known as an exciting, masterful interpreter of the Great American Songbook. Equally at home in jazz clubs and on concert stages, she is following the footsteps of Ella Fitzgerald and Peggy Lee in that she can swing when she so desires, yet always stays connected to the rich and musically diverse songbook singing tradition that these great ladies of song exemplified. Fun yet elegant, Juliet enjoys singing the full spectrum of popular songs, from the musical chestnuts of George Gershwin and Cole Porter to the contemporary stylings of Sting, Laufey, and Sade. Perhaps the word that best exemplifies her artistry is timeless. Juliet regularly performs as a soloist or with her trio, the Juliet Set, in and around New York City in jazz clubs and private events, marked by a golden voice that resonates with warmth and clarity and captivates her audiences with every note. On September 12th, she released her album, Simply Wonderful, The Magic of Gershwin. And so please join me again in welcoming Juliet Ewing to our program. Welcome, Juliet.
Well, thank you, Deb. This is really fun. Thanks for the introduction.
I love it. I love it. Well, tell us a little bit more about your journey. How is it that you got to where you are today?
Wow. Well, I think honestly, in so many ways, my whole life has been kind of pointing me to this moment.
Mhm.
I was, studied music as a kid, was surrounded by a family that is very musical. My mother's a singer. My father is still on the board of the opera in Detroit. So I was surrounded by a mix of beautiful music, mostly opera and classical, and some Broadway, which I really loved, a little bit of cabaret.
Mhm.
So I didn't really hear much jazz, but I was captivated by Broadway and
Mhm.
musical theater. So my first experiences were seeing a live Broadway show in New York City, and I said that is what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
My whole
That
life.
that want to do that. Mhm.
That was I saw Guys and Dolls. And I said, "Oh my gosh, this is for me." And I loved it so much. And so I was totally surrounded by this with my family. My brother, my sister, and I, we would be obsessed with musicals. And we would, I remember, set our alarm for 2 o'clock in the morning. This is before you could record things. And we'd
Mhm.
wake up and we'd watch these beautiful black and white RKO picture classics, with Fred Astaire, Ginger
Mhm.
Rogers, Tom
Mhm.
Pat, and Swing Time. And we just devoured all of it. And I remember my grandparents were just so excited because we knew all these great songs that they
Mhm.
knew in the 30s. And it's like in the 80s, and we're singing
Mhm.
all these crazy old
Mhm.
songs. So I was always obsessed with it. And I was either going to study business or music.
Right. Mhm.
And I wasn't sure because I really had a
Mhm.
business mind and I was
Mhm.
fascinated by business. My father
Mhm.
had a manufacturing company
Mhm.
outside Detroit, so I was really enmeshed in that.
Mhm.
So it was really a difficult choice for me. But when I was
Mhm.
accepted into the University of Michigan musical theater program, which was a very elite program, I said,
Mhm.
well, I'm going to give it a shot. And I got some great advice from my dad, who was a
Mhm.
successful CEO, and he said, if you don't do this now, the rest of your life, you're going to wonder, what if?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Said you can have a lot of different careers. He goes, I don't mean jobs. You can have many
Mm-hmm.
careers in
Mm-hmm.
your lifetime, which I have had. He said, you
Mm-hmm.
have to try it. And that is kind of the encouragement that I needed that. I knew I had some talent and
Mm-hmm.
I had the drive, but then you just don't know. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
total gamble, especially
Mm-hmm.
in show business. You have no
Right.
idea.
Mm-hmm.
So after studying musical theater and
Mm-hmm.
graduating and having an incredible
Mm-hmm.
experience in Ann Arbor, I moved to New York City and made my way. And it was, it was terrifying because I remember every day I had to stop myself from heading to
Mm-hmm.
LaGuardia Airport to go back home
Yeah.
to do. I was like,
Mom.
it's so hard. I don't know how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's kind of me. It's like I don't necessarily know how to do it, but I keep going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who likes to be in motion.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I make quick decisions. Usually they're good decisions, not always, but I make a decision. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
try and I'm going to go forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I started my career in New York, and it was all usually always musical theater, but
Mm-hmm.
often in big shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I could dance. I was a dancer, so I was
Mm.
able to work right away. And I figured
Okay.
that was really good for me. I danced
Mm-hmm.
well enough that I could be in an ensemble of a big show.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always the high soprano who could hit the high C, but then I could tap dance. So I
Mm-hmm.
was always working. I was like that
Mm-hmm.
kind of strange mix. So I did a lot of musical theater. I ended up doing regional theater. Then my first big gig was I did the musical 42nd Street in Europe, and
Mm-hmm.
that was about 9 months of doing that. And I
Mm-hmm.
did a really funny role
Mm-hmm.
called Anytime Annie, who was like a second leading lady, and I got to
Mm-hmm.
sing really fun songs like Shuffle Up to Buffalo and
Mm-hmm.
kind of a comic part, great costumes and wigs and
Mm-hmm.
all that fun
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and really glorious music. So I did that
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, and in between then I'd come back to New York and do regional theater, and then I got a great show that is still very dear to my heart. I did the Gershwin music all by George and his
Mm-hmm.
brother, the lyricist.
Mm-hmm.
The show Crazy for You,
Mm-hmm.
which I did all over Europe, and
Mm-hmm.
I had the most amazing time. I was in Switzerland for a long time, in Germany, and big show. You'd sit there for a long time. You'd be in a city for 3, 6, 9 months, and it was just glorious. And the people loved the music, and I got
Mm-hmm.
really attached to all that music.
Mm-hmm.
I had learned it growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew a lot of the songs. A couple songs were kind of new to me. And it was a really celebrated production on Broadway,
Mm-hmm.
which I never got to do it on Broadway. I was kind of didn't get to New York till after that had
Mm-hmm.
happened, but I was able to do it in Europe. And I remember I never ever got tired of that music. I mean, you hear the music. I think I did that show 300 times. And I just never got tired of the music because I would sit backstage and I would wait for my entrance and I would listen to the orchestra play the songs that were not even vocal songs. They were like the orchestral George Gershwin
Mm-hmm.
or snippets of Rhapsody in Blue or American in Paris. They'd play as kind of the scene changes. And I would wait for my entrance and just be, blown away by the beautiful music. So I
Mm-hmm.
never ever tired of the music, stayed with me. And then I ended up doing a Broadway tour of another show called totally the opposite of the George Gershwin show. I did a musical called Footloose, which was from the movie.
Ah. Mm-hmm.
Same music and new music, Broadway
Mm-hmm.
tunes put in there, and the original stuff.
Mm-hmm. But not Kevin Bacon.
Yes, they did
Ah.
without Kevin Bacon, sadly. Like a great group of guys. It was super
Mm-hmm.
fun, and I toured all the United States,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really fun because I seen all parts of the U.S. that I never would
Mm-hmm.
have really visited. I was, I'm
Mm-hmm.
in Memphis for 2 weeks, or I'm in
Mm-hmm.
Seattle for two
Mm-hmm.
months, and the big cities like Los Angeles, but
Mm-hmm.
then, Green Bay, Wisconsin in January,
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
which I'll never forget. But that was, I think, the most enthusiastic audience we ever had
I
because it's
bet.
January in Green Bay and there's nothing going on.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
They were
And they were
like,
clapping to stay warm.
they were clapping to stay warm and they were so thrilled that we were
Mhm.
there. I was like, this
Mhm.
is the most amazing. They are not jaded. They are very excited that we're here. So
I
that was,
love it. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was great. So I toured the whole United States
Mm-hmm.
and it was great. I mean, I think I was in like
Mm-hmm.
35 states over about a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up doing that show Footloose on Broadway
Mm-hmm.
briefly as a replacement, and that was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, it was I gotta say, looking back, the shows that we did across the United States were they were really more fun. They were bigger theaters, often
Mm-hmm.
more beautiful theaters.
Mm-hmm.
They were new, and a lot of the Broadway houses. We were in the Richard
Mm-hmm.
Rodgers, or Hamilton,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
which is a great theater and a great
Mm-hmm.
history. But they're small and cramped, and
Mm-hmm.
you're in
Mm-hmm.
these glorious theaters, brand new, gorgeous things. So it was a totally different experience, but it was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that in New York briefly, and then I continued my career for
Mm-hmm.
a long time, and then I decided to have a family, and
Mm-hmm.
I needed to get off the road, and I
Mm-hmm.
said, really do that. And that was kind of one of, different phases of your
Mhm.
life. I definitely
Right.
wanted a family. I married a
Mhm.
wonderful guy who was, not in the music business
Mhm.
because, I always feel like it's very hard to have someone who's in your same business.
Mhm.
And
Right.
whether or not you're
They
all
understand, but yeah, especially if you're touring and doing things like that, you might never be in the same place.
may never be in the same place, and it's really hard to maintain a relationship.
Mhm.
I don't think you can do that. But for me, it was great because I had my husband is a wonderful guy who loves music, but is not a
Mhm.
musician. And I was able to stay home
Mhm.
and take care of my kids for quite a long time before I
Mhm.
went back into the music business.
Mhm.
And that was satisfying. And I really needed to be there
Mhm.
and wanted to be there and got to impart all my musical taste and wisdom on my children. And
Mhm.
some of them are in, studying music and interested in
Mhm.
music and performing, which is great. So it's kind of like our family legacy. It went from
Mhm.
my
Right.
parents
Mhm.
loving music and introducing us to that,
Mhm.
to my brother and sister and I enjoying it. And we're all kind of in arts related
Mhm.
industries and passing it down. So that was important
Mhm.
to me. But after a while, I got sick of it. I started doing directing kids shows and
Ah.
performing
Mhm.
again. Yeah,
Mhm.
I was out in the Hamptons for 5 summers
Mhm.
directing shows. And that was really fun, but I wanted to get back.
Mhm.
And during the pandemic, I really felt like it's time for me. I
Mhm.
still have something to give.
Mhm.
There's music that I want to learn, that
Right.
I want to
Mhm.
explore.
Mhm.
I'm not done yet.
Right.
And
And your voice was still very, very
my
good.
yeah,
Mhm.
thank you. Yeah, my voice was still there. And I said, it's if you keep like it's a muscle, if you
Mhm.
keep doing it
Right.
every day, whether it's
Mhm.
tennis or swimming or what singing, if you keep that
Mhm.
muscle active,
Mhm.
keep working on it, it
Mhm.
will change and
Mhm.
develop.
Mhm.
My voice is different than it was, 20 years ago,
Mhm.
but I don't dislike it. I am able to sing different kind of music. I
Right. Right. It's matured, shall we say?
Sure. And you understand as a singer,
Mhm.
as you said,
Mhm.
you sang before that
Mhm.
I lost a couple of the very, very high notes, but I
Mhm.
gained the low notes. And that
Right.
lends itself
Right.
more to what
Mhm.
I'm singing now, which is jazz and American
Mhm.
Songbook. Although I was asked to do a big Broadway concert, an outdoor concert in New York State
Mhm.
last week, and that was going back to my musical theater roots,
Ah. Mhm.
singing like a soprano and doing things from Oklahoma and doing some
Mhm.
Gershwin. So it's like you can sometimes
Mhm.
do both. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm sure a lot of your guests feel like they
Mhm.
could have their feet maybe in both
Mhm.
places. Sometimes you can do what you used to do and
Mhm.
your new thing. So I feel like that's important to me to keep doing all of
Mhm.
that. Um, and so then during the pandemic, I had some opportunities to start singing again in like
Mhm.
2022.
Mhm.
And I remember meeting with my arranger and pianist, Ron Drodos, who's a great jazz guy. And we were working up some things. I had a really fun gig at
Mhm.
Tavern on the Green in New York City, which is an
Oh.
iconic place. Yeah, and it was
Mhm.
Valentine's Day. And
Mhm.
I kept going back to the Gershwin. And after we
Mhm.
finished our gig, he's like, he suggested to me, he's like, you should really explore some Gershwin. I decided to do a solo cabaret.
Mhm.
And after having done, musical theater, having done Broadway,
Mhm.
toured, I'd done big concerts, I'd done
Mhm.
original shows. It was kind of the last thing that terrified me.
Right. This
Charlotte,
very, in many cases, small, intimate setting of just you.
just me, and you don't have someone writing your script.
Mhm.
Often cabaret is speaking from the heart about your personal
Mhm.
experiences or
Right.
something related to that, and that can be vulnerable and
Mhm.
scary.
Mhm.
But it was kind of my bucket list for if I could do that one thing,
Mhm.
I would be so happy and proud of myself
Mhm.
because it was the thing I was the most
Mhm.
terrified of. And they always say you
Mhm.
got to do things that terrify
Mhm.
you.
Right.
Terrify
Right.
me.
Mhm.
So I put it together, and I remember the day I signed the contract to book my first show of that. And I was like, I sent it in. They're like, oh my God.
Mhm.
People are like, congratulations. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm so scared. And you're like, no one's going to show up and no one's
Mhm.
going to care and all
Mhm.
that stuff. Well, no, that it didn't happen that way. It was great. I
Mhm.
ended up doing that one, not two. I did it 4 times and I
Mhm.
sold out all 4 times throughout
Mhm.
2024, 2025.
Mhm.
To that 1 year, 12-month period. And it
Mhm.
was just so rewarding
Mhm.
because besides seeing, first just your friends come and your family comes, and then people hear about it and you get to
Mhm.
know people in the industry, and then the reviewers
Mhm.
come. And I got
Mhm.
really lovely reviews,
Mhm.
and that was just so satisfying and
Mhm.
surprising. I was grateful. And I got to know a lot of people in the cabaret world, and they're just really warm and wonderful
Mhm. Mhm.
people. And they love this art form so much. So I started doing a little cabaret at the
Mhm.
same time I'm doing a lot of jazz gigs and private events. So I
Mhm.
start
Mhm.
singing in jazz clubs in New York City and I start pounding the pavement, meeting people, showing up saying, this is what I do. These are my
Mhm.
credentials. This is my video. This is I had to start developing my
Mhm.
own business. And that
Mhm.
meant figuring out how to get the assets that I needed, which was a
Mhm.
little snippet of a live video. And then,
Mhm. Mhm.
then some audio recording and some great pictures and things
Mhm.
that I'd done previously when I had an agent. But
Mhm.
in jazz and independent musicianship when you're starting out, you don't really have a lot of people advocating
Mhm.
for you. Whereas in
Right.
theater, I had a big theater agent. He would
Mhm.
get me. get me the interviews, get me the
Hmm.
auditions. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh, I don't have to do that part. I'm already well represented. But when you're your own musician, you're really your own business.
Hmm.
It's
Right.
all on you. And if
Hmm.
you're lucky, you have some friends who can support you or some
Hmm.
colleagues that you know that will give you some good advice.
Hmm.
So I did start meeting with a lot of people I'd met in jazz and
Hmm.
cabaret and musicians in particular who had been
Hmm.
doing it a long time. My sidemen, my bass players are always full of great information. They're so talented.
Uh-huh.
Like I will say that all the bass players I've ever worked with are just
Hmm.
amazing. And
Because they
they'll
sit back and they just watch, right?
really, because
Hmm.
they're well, they play, but they're more
Hmm.
support,
Hmm.
and they just seem to. I've been lucky enough that the guys I've met have been terrific,
Hmm.
and they're really
Hmm.
helpful. So they maybe you should try this club, or I'll give
Hmm.
this club a call for you, or
Hmm.
maybe try this, or
Hmm.
call this person. So I felt like there's a really nice support.
Hmm.
There's not as much direct competition. I think
Hmm.
if I were talking to a lot of many, vocalists,
Hmm. Right,
what
right.
like you might
Because
feel
there
we're
is a finite number of clubs,
very
and so yeah, when and it really would be your competition for that space.
it would, but I never look at it like that. I always felt like even in theater that my competition was always with me.
Right.
How can
Hmm.
I be the best Juliet
Hmm.
ever? How can I show up and do the best audition,
Hmm.
do the best gig, have a
Hmm.
successful gig? Because people will like you or they won't. They
Right.
will like your style of music or your
Hmm.
singing or they won't. And
Hmm.
you can control that a little bit. You can
Hmm.
influence it by doing a great job. But if they don't like your style, if they want, a totally different style, if they want, pop singer like Pink, or that's not
Hmm.
me. I don't
Right.
sing. I sing on a different style, and people
Hmm.
who like that style of music usually enjoy what I'm doing. I will
Hmm.
say that
Hmm.
they like the style of music. They're satisfied and
Hmm.
happy to meet me. So I guess I digressed a little bit, but after doing my cabaret show, I said I think I need to do an album of this music, and that
Hmm.
was another thing that I'd always wanted to do.
Hmm.
I'd done a little bit of recording of
Hmm.
original shows, but I'd never done a full album.
Hmm.
So I was fortunate enough to find a wonderful producer who was a kind of a giant in the
Hmm.
cabaret and jazz world as a pianist and an arranger.
Ah. Hmm.
And his name is Ted Firth, and he's
Hmm.
Michael Feinstein's band leader. If you know him, he tours.
Ah. Hmm. Hmm.
He's great. He's his pianist and band leader and
Hmm.
arranger and everything. He's been with him a long time.
Hmm.
So we met and we discussed the album.
Hmm.
It's a long process. It's like,
Hmm.
a year, about a year since this has
Hmm.
really I started talking about it, over a year. And we discussed the project and he said he would produce it and we set some time and he was able to get
Hmm.
the two gentlemen who play in Michael Feinstein's, rhythm section, the bass player David Fink
Ah. Hmm.
and the wonderful drummer Mark
Hmm.
McLean. They were available and
Hmm.
they are always with Michael
Hmm.
Feinstein's band and they've recorded many
Hmm.
times. The thing that I was most excited about
Hmm.
is David Fink, the bass player, had done an album with Andre Previn of all
Oh.
Gershwin songs long
Hmm.
ago, and I just
Hmm.
stumbled upon this album
Hmm.
when I was doing my research, and I told my
Hmm.
producer, I said, "There's this great album and this great bass
Hmm.
player, David Fink. He's on this album." He goes, "That's the guy who's going to play on your album." I was like, "I can't believe it!" And then
Hmm.
when I got to know Mark McLean, the drummer,
Hmm.
he's really experienced and
Hmm.
amazing and such a great guy, and he's played with all the greats. But the most exciting thing was he told me he played with George Michael
Hmm.
in London way back in the day. I was like, okay, well, that tops everything.
Yep.
So
Yep. Hmm.
they're great players, but they're really
Hmm.
great guys. So they're on the album. And my arranger and pianist, Ron Drodos, who I did my cabaret with, who kind of spurred me onto all this,
Hmm.
played the majority of the tracks on the album. And
Hmm.
Ted, my producer, played a three solo things that we
Hmm.
did. So I started doing the album and
Hmm.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I
Hmm.
was hoping it was going to be something I was
Hmm.
proud of and it certainly is. It's all George Gershwin
Hmm.
songs, and 99% of the lyrics are by his brother Ira Gershwin,
Hmm.
except
Right.
one
They were
song.
definitely a team. Hmm.
They were a team, a great team. And they're very near and dear to my heart because they lived in the Upper West Side of New York City,
Hmm.
where I lived for many, many years up
Hmm.
until very recently. And I used to always walk by this one building near the Cathedral of St. John the Divine.
Hmm.
If you're in New York or you know New York,
Hmm.
on Amsterdam on 110th Street, and there's a
Hmm.
little building. It's a nondescript building,
Hmm.
but there's a little plaque on it.
Hmm.
And next to the gargoyles, there's a little plaque, and it
Hmm.
says George Gershwin and his brother Ira Gershwin lived
Hmm.
here when George wrote A Rhapsody in Blue on an upright piano in a D-line apartment. And
Ah.
I just love that. I said this
Hmm.
little
Hmm.
human detail, these
Hmm.
famous, famous people that I feel very close to them. I feel like I'm walking in their footsteps all the time when I'm ever in that neighborhood. And
Hmm.
they lived all over that. They kept upgrading to better apartments, like New Yorkers do, a better apartment, a bigger apartment. Now
Hmm.
they're on the river.
Hmm.
Now they're in Amsterdam. So I felt like it was very much kind of meant to be. It's my neighborhood. When I first landed in New York City, where I spent most of my time, where I bought my first apartment, was around the corner from where they lived, and it kind of was all pointing me to this direction. So when I decided to do the Gershwin album. I felt like it was really meant to be.
Hmm.
And it's the album is really to me very exciting because it has a lot of famous songs that people who
Right.
know even just a little bit of the American
Right.
song.
We've all heard the music. We just
Yes,
don't always know where it came from.
you don't know where it came from, and you'd still hear "I Got Rhythm" is like a jazz
Hmm.
standard. Everyone knows
Hmm.
"I Got Rhythm," or they know
Right.
cartoons about it. The other day, I just saw a
Hmm.
very funny cartoon about it. So that is a song that people would know, and the title of the album is simply "Swonderful," the magic of
Hmm.
Gershwin, and of
Hmm.
course, "Swonderful" is the first song I
Hmm.
have. That's great. It's so
Hmm.
charming, and most people
Hmm.
know that. And there's so many
Hmm.
songs I could have, piled into that
Right.
album.
Yeah, because they did so many. I mean, that's the thing. They were so very productive.
Yes, it's so productive. And so I
Hmm.
took a couple songs that weren't as well known
Hmm.
and that not had not really been recorded very
Hmm.
much. One was called Slap That Bass, which I became aware of when I did Crazy for You, the musical. I
Hmm.
wasn't in that song, but oh, I'm like, that's a great song. It's
Hmm.
not done very much. I did it, of course, with a bass player, David Fink, and it's really fun.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then I did another song that had been recorded by two greats, by Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan, but then like no one else did it, and
Oh.
they're
Hmm.
amazing.
Hmm.
It's called Lorelei, and it's really about the sirens on the rocks who call them in, and how
Hmm.
this character wants to be
Huh.
like.
Interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, it's a really cute song. So
Hmm.
I decided to throw that on there, and a lot of the songs are familiar. And I, of course, couldn't put everything I recorded on there because it's just not enough time.
Right. Even
Yeah,
though it's now digital as opposed to these little round plastic things.
yeah, yeah. Well, even the CDs, though, it's interesting because
That's
going back to
true.
the business end of it,
Hmm.
gathering my team of people to
Hmm.
support, I had to, get in touch with music producers and people who
Hmm.
actually physically produce and a
Hmm.
publicist. And the publicist said, no, we actually still really want CDs.
Hmm.
People
Right.
want CDs, they
Hmm.
really do. So I had to have a couple hundred produced
Hmm.
because they send them out to radio
Hmm.
stations, still want to see a physical copy.
Oh, this is true. Right.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
you want to see it even if you
Hmm.
don't, even if you stream it, you want to
Hmm.
look at the liner notes, maybe
Hmm.
you want to look at the
Hmm.
photo. It's people still want something in their
Hmm.
hands to hold. And I thought that was very interesting, like business wise. I'm like, okay, they really
Hmm.
want that. And you can still sell CDs. And there's been articles now that CDs are
Hmm.
kind of coming back because musicians will say
Hmm.
that the sound is
Hmm.
still really much better
Hmm.
on,
Hmm.
on a CD as opposed to streaming. And a
Hmm.
vinyl, is even better. But as
Hmm.
I learned, dealing with the music production end is that you can only have a certain amount of minutes on a CD, which, it's
Right. Hmm.
52 minutes. So I had to
Hmm.
cut some songs. So those decisions I had to
Hmm.
make, the business end of it, not just
Hmm.
like, oh, I want to revel and glory in the music.
Hmm.
You had to figure out that kind of stuff. And that
Hmm.
was a real learning curve is
Hmm.
talking to all the people and getting things all organized that way,
Hmm.
hiring the right team, finding the specifics of how to
Hmm.
produce the
Hmm.
language that they use, what are DSP masters and
Right.
what are the terms they're using. So it was
Yeah.
really
And
like
you don't have a team. It's pretty much you.
it's me
Hmm.
and the people I hire and the people I meet and the advice that's given to me. And like I said, a lot of musicians are really helpful. They said, well, this is
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
trustworthy publicist and finding people you trust.
Right. Right. Well,
And
and they're hoping to work with you again or
yes,
that you will refer them.
of course.
And so they're not going to lead you down a wrong direction.
They're not going to lead you down the wrong direction. And our mutual friend, PJ Ewing, has known a lot of musicians and he
Yeah,
introduced
PJ's pretty well connected.
he's
Hmm.
very well connected in the jazz and music world.
Hmm.
So he introduced me to some people who were lovely and they're saying, I'll
Hmm.
give you my advice. I'll tell you what happened to
Ah.
me.
Hmm.
They were really generous about that and generous
Hmm.
with their time. Even some local
Hmm.
record producers who do like punk rock labels,
Hmm.
they were going to help me directly, but they give me good advice. So I felt
Hmm.
like people were very welcoming.
Hmm.
And I guess I found that a little surprising. I was happy to hear that.
Hmm.
So the journey of, starting out as a kid, loving the Gershwin music that
Hmm.
was already like really old
Hmm.
when I got to it, and then
Hmm.
having the experience of performing in a
Hmm.
Gershwin show for over 300
Hmm.
performances all over the United States
Hmm.
and all over Europe,
Hmm.
and then revisiting the music when I had this really important
Hmm.
gig at Tavern on the Green, and then deciding to do the cabaret and then the album. It looks like a direct line, but it has a lot of things
Hmm.
in between. So, and my love of this music just never waned. I
Right.
still hear other singers do the music
Hmm.
and it still hits people because
Hmm.
the lyrics to me are extremely important as much as
Yes.
George
Yeah.
Gershwin's
Hmm.
melodies. The
Hmm.
lyrics are the most important thing,
Hmm.
and I always say I can't sing songs that don't have great lyrics.
Hmm.
There are a lot of great pop
Right,
tunes out
because
there.
you're telling a story.
I'm telling a story, and
Hmm.
that's what you should be doing
Hmm.
in music or in podcasting
Hmm.
or whatever. You have to
Hmm.
tell the story. People want the
Hmm.
story.
Hmm.
And I remember a gig I did. It was Father's Day, and it
Hmm.
was a restaurant. So it was kind of a casual gig, but people
Hmm.
were there having a wonderful time. And I decided to sing one of my favorite George Gershwin songs,
Hmm.
which is not on this album, but I
Hmm.
will release it. It's called Someone to Watch Over Me.
Oh, yes. And that's been in several movies and all sorts of things. So many people know it.
Yes, and this young woman, I think she was
Hmm.
around, she looked like she was 20,
Hmm.
and she whipped out her phone and she called her father. She said, Dad, listen, they're playing our song.
Oh.
Gosh,
Hmm.
Someone to Watch Over Me is their song. And I've
Hmm.
sung that at weddings, and I just feel
Hmm.
like these lyrics, I think this song
Hmm.
is like 100 years old. I think
Hmm.
that song is 1924.
Right, right.
And people still react to that
Hmm.
song. They still
Hmm.
feel it. So a lot of people have called this music, and
Hmm.
I've been fortunate enough to be called timeless. And I
Hmm.
feel like this music is
Hmm.
timeless. It fits a
Right.
particular
Hmm.
era.
Hmm.
It could be it could be any time.
Hmm.
And the music is so great and the lyrics are so strong. They
Hmm.
still speak to people,
Hmm.
and they want to listen. They
Hmm.
want to feel. They want to
Hmm.
be drawn in emotionally by
Hmm.
this amazing melody and the lyrics.
Hmm.
So for me, it still moves me, and I
Hmm.
hope it moves people.
Right. Yeah, and we are going to listen to one of the cuts here shortly, but it's storytelling. I mean, to me, music is the ultimate storytelling. And as you said, these songs are old. I mean, from a time perspective, and aside from like gospel songs, which some of those are very, very old. But it was interesting because when I was doing my research for the program, I was thinking these were World War II era songs, right? Well, he didn't even live that long. I mean, George Gershwin, folks, was born in 1898 and he passed away in 1937. So, these songs that we know and are very familiar with, as Juliet said, they're over 100 years old. And I mean, that really is timeless. And I can see, years and years into the future, people will still be listening to this, and it's because it's well written.
Mhm.
It tells those stories. Anybody can listen to it, right? You're not going to go, oh my heavens, what was that word that they just sang or
I know,
said,
right?
right? Um, and we can listen to it. I love that the daughter was talking to her dad about this because it is those type of songs to me are the multi-generational. And what
Absolutely.
I love is that there's a whole new group of people who are discovering these songs, the millennials, and much earlier than that, and they're also going back to vinyl,
Oh,
and
isn't that
all of those
amazing?
things.
I
Hmm.
thought about releasing this on vinyl, and that was a whole other learning curve. I said I talked to
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
vinyl, and they have to get a glass, literally
Hmm.
a glass master of the vinyl, and
Hmm.
it can only
Hmm.
fit certain amount of songs on
Right.
it. It
Hmm.
depends on the style of music.
Hmm.
Like if they have hard rock or
Hmm.
punk,
Hmm.
there's more decibels, there's more activity, and so
Right.
the
Hmm.
less songs. I didn't even know
Hmm.
that on an album because of the type, but I only had to
Yeah.
check. Like we can fit more songs. I said, this
Hmm.
is, I never thought of that.
Hmm.
I had
Hmm.
no idea. I thought that was so interesting. But yeah, it's so much. And the songs,
Hmm.
and it's one song in particular that I just, whenever I sing it, people say, oh my gosh, this could have been written
Hmm.
today. It's also on the album. And the verse, which is the beginning of the song, that's often cut in a lot of full versions of the song.
Hmm.
It's a song called Love Is Here to Stay, and it starts off, the more I read the papers, the less I comprehend the world and all its capers, and how it all will end. Nothing seems to be lasting, but that isn't our affair. We've got something permanent, I mean, in the way we care. And then it starts, it's very clear our love is here to stay. And to me, that song talking about the papers and the
Hmm.
world is ending and
Right.
things are so
It's
stressful.
today.
It's today, and people hear the song, and you can hear
Hmm.
people in the audience go, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
this could have been written today.
Right.
I can't read the papers. Things are
Hmm.
stressful.
Hmm.
Is the world ending?
Hmm.
All the bad things. But there's one thing,
Right.
love is here to stay.
Right.
And I
Hmm.
also love that song because it's not a romantic song. It
Hmm.
could be,
Hmm.
but it was written, the lyrics are written after Ira Gershwin's brother George passed away.
Oh, so he was writing it for his brother
And he wrote it for
and
his
his performing partner or
That's
creating partner, I guess it would be.
creating
Hmm.
partner.
Hmm.
Love is here to stay,
Hmm.
not for a year, but ever and a
Hmm.
day. And it's not there's no romantic
Mhm.
tones really. It could be
Right.
considered that way, but
Mhm.
it's about a love of a sibling or a family
Right.
member.
Well,
And
and a love for our fellow,
yes,
people. I mean,
oh
that's the thing. And
love of music and
mhm,
love of your art. And it's just
mhm,
that's one of those songs, a timeless song that
mhm,
you sing today, and people love the song. They've heard
mhm,
it, but then like it has a different
mhm,
resonance now
mhm,
when people hear it in
mhm.
today's context of what's going on
Right.
in the world. So
Right.
that's why it's so much fun
Mhm,
to sing these songs again. And
mhm,
that's why I feel like, yes, people have sung George Gershwin songs
mhm,
forever. There's a lot of George Gershwin albums
mhm,
out there. But I felt like people can stand to hear it
mhm,
again and they love the
mhm.
songs. And
Right.
mine will be my
Mhm,
own interpretation, a different spin. It's a
mhm,
jazzy
mhm. It
version,
is a little jazzy. Hmm.
a little jazzy, and it's my spin on it, and it's
Hmm.
something I felt like I needed to do and I
Hmm.
wanted to do, and so I feel like there's always more
Hmm.
room in this world for beautiful,
Right.
great music.
Oh, yeah, and it is very beautiful. I enjoyed listening to some of the samples that I was sent, and I have to tell you, when you were singing just a couple minutes ago, chills. I
Oh,
got chills. Um,
I was glad
and
something came out. I wasn't sure I haven't sung this morning, so that's
oh,
good.
it was beautiful. And so we are going to play a cut. We're going to, of course, have to play so wonderful. That's always kind of hard to say, right? So can you give us a little bit of background on the song before we play it?
Well, the background of the song is I grew up listening to it my whole life, and
Okay.
I always thought it was hilarious as a kid because I'm like, wait a minute, what is he saying? He's wonderful, marvelous. You should care for me. He's chopping off the words to make them rhyme, and it's so clever. To me, it's really the iconic Ira Gershwin lyric because
Hmm.
it's a little cheeky, it's a little fun, and people, still call things wonderful, marvelous, and then he gets really clever. He calls elegant, it's what I want. And back then in that era when it was written, kind of that casual way of speaking was pretty new,
Hmm.
and they did not have that in a lot of pop songs. It was a
Right.
little subversive to put that in what was more a formal situation, like a musical on stage or in a
Hmm.
movie. It's like a little irreverent, and that's what I love about it. It
Hmm.
kind of started that more casual, conversational way of
Hmm.
writing lyrics, and that's what I think is really special about that song.
I love it. I love it. Well, we are going to play it now. So, folks, sit back, turn it up, and enjoy.
It's wonderful, it's marvelous. You should care for me. Soft and nice, it's paradise. It's what I love to see. You've made my life so glamorous. You can't blame me for feeling amorous. Oh, it's wonderful, it's marvelous that you should care for me. It's wonderful, it's marvelous, you should care for me. Soft and nice, it's paradise, what I love to see. My dear, it's four-leaf clover time. From now on, my heart's working overtime. Oh, it's wonderful, it's marvelous that you should care for me. It's magnifique, it's what I see. You should care for me. It's elegant, it's what I want, it's what I love to see.
Oh my gosh. I have to incredible, right? I'm gonna have, I do not have the album yet. I'm going to have to do that because it is just absolutely wonderful. And you know, this is the music that I enjoy, right? I was looking at things before and I was thinking, okay, Rosemary Clooney was one of the ones that I absolutely loved. And of course, in your intro, we mentioned Ella Fitzgerald and Peggy Lee. And
I got to perform with Rosemary Clooney
oh
way
my
back.
gosh. She just seemed like nice, right?
So nice.
Mhm,
She did a tour and I was in high school and
mhm.
we were a local like girls singing group
Mhm,
and she needed backup singers
mhm,
for a show in Detroit and they asked us
mhm.
to do it. And I mean, I we all knew who she was. We'd seen
Right.
White Christmas and
Mhm,
her music, everybody had a mad crush on her music director, who at the time, was a young man, John Otto.
mhm.
And everyone was talking about this guy. And then years ago, I think it was like 10 years ago, I was at the Cafe Carlisle seeing a show and he was there. And I said, Mr. Otto, you don't remember me because I was a teenager, but we worked together with Rosemary Clooney. And so
Mhm,
she was fabulous. You have great
mhm.
taste, Deb. She's a great singer.
She is just fabulous. And yeah, I mean that's I grew up doing Broadway and things like that, and the musicals. My high school, we always did a musical every year. And then in college I was part of a performing group. We performed every weekend. And we performed, it was interesting, we performed what our director wrote because we performed in Methodist churches. And
Mhm.
so but the night before we would always go. And these were churches in Topeka, Kansas City, that area around there. And we would do the songs that you're talking about as just kind of this performance. And they had the tables set up. I mean, it was very much kind of a cabaret, but with five or six of us performing. And we just loved it. To me that was so much fun. And that music is, as you said, it is absolutely timeless.
It is timeless and it's joyful. And,
Mhm,
music has a lot of purposes in people's lives. It can be
mhm,
reflective, it can
mhm,
contemplative. But for me, where I am now in my life, I want to bring
mhm,
joy. I know reflection
mhm,
is important and I like to sing the
mhm,
blues sometimes and some
mhm,
beautiful ballads,
mhm,
but music is joy. And,
mhm.
I finally figured out when I was young, I used to go to the opera a lot and I could never understand why, there's so much drama and it's like a
Oh, I
little,
know. Oh my gosh. Mhm.
I mean, it's a little much. At times I was like, why are we doing this? And my parents loved
And
it.
it's not in English, so that's.
And it's not in English, but then as an adult, I
Mhm,
finally figured it out. I was like, wow, people want to go see these experiences.
mhm,
Maybe they can't express
mhm,
themselves that way. And maybe
mhm,
they want to. Maybe they feel as wild and
mhm,
crazy and angry and vengeful as
mhm,
Tosca and they want to get revenge and
mhm.
but they can't express themselves or maybe have this wild passion like
Right.
you see in the opera La
Mhm,
Boheme, this heartbreak.
mhm,
And they want someone else to express it for them.
mhm,
So I think not everyone is comfortable
mhm,
expressing their emotions
mhm,
like I am, and I think you are
mhm,
too, Deb. You have a great personality. You're able to speak your mind, but a lot
mhm,
of people are not. And they really feel a healing power
mhm,
when they either listen to music that
mhm,
expresses us, like we did, like as teenagers, are always in their
mhm.
bedrooms, like emoting,
Right.
whatever it is,
Mhm.
Taylor,
With our cassettes.
with our
Ah.
cassette. But kids are still doing that, and they
Mhm,
still, teenager. I have teenagers. They still need to feel
mhm,
that. And I think as an adult, when you go see a live
mhm,
performance, I see that connection
mhm,
in a cabaret space or a smaller jazz
mhm.
club, and you can tell when you've hit something and
Right.
people are quiet and they're
Mhm,
drawn
mhm,
and they feel it's either a song they knew. I'll
mhm.
sing Moon River, for example.
Ah.
People just like,
Mhm,
no one is tired of that song,
mhm,
including me. They
mhm,
was at my parents' wedding, it was at my wedding. I love
mhm,
them. I love the
mhm,
song. And it just brings people
mhm,
back to a certain
mhm.
happiness. And I feel
Right.
like the songs in the Great American Songbook, which the Gershwin canon
Mhm,
is part of, really speak to that. It brings people joy,
mhm,
emotion,
mhm,
and they're not crass. I
mhm,
mean, there's a place for those kind of like
mhm,
wild, super sexy
mhm.
songs, and that's perfectly great. But
Right. Mhm,
not for me to
mhm,
sing. And I feel like I really
mhm,
enjoy the connection with the
mhm,
audience. So, and I do feel
mhm,
like talking about everything streaming online, and yes, CDs and vinyl is still
mhm.
around, but I don't think live performance is really going anywhere because
No.
people still show up at my
Mhm,
gigs and
mhm,
they're always full, and
mhm,
people want to have
mhm,
that hour, an hour
mhm,
and a half, whatever it is. They want to be around people
mhm,
enjoying the same thing.
mhm,
feeling that connection.
Mhm.
And I think it's, although I think it's harder for a lot of people to get audiences post-COVID, they are
Mhm.
still out there and they
Mhm.
still want to come. They want to hear
Mhm.
familiar things. They want to hear new things.
Mhm.
They want to see you there,
Mhm.
what you say, warts and all. If
Mhm.
if a mistake happens and somebody forgets something, people, they love to see
We
that. Like,
laugh. Mhm.
recover. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
that happened to you
Mhm.
too. And I've
Mhm.
seen that happen. And
Mhm.
occasionally, once in a while, I will
Mhm.
say not that often, I've forgotten a lyric. I'm like, I kind of made something up there, but it was poetic. And so,
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Right. And we want to feel the music. And that's, you can to some degree when it's a recording, but that live performance, we can feel what the performer is telling us. We can see that you're very emotional or you're laughing or whatever. And that's why I know folks, and we've talked about it on this program, right? AI, uh-uh, music is not, no, because there is that emotional aspect. Now, if it's, the 30-second background to a commercial, that's one
yeah.
thing. But yeah, there is that whole thing that is that additional part of a live performance or a recorded performance. We feel what the performer is feeling.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was when I was putting together my cabaret, I remember speaking with my director who helped me, and she said, the first minute or two of you getting on there on stage, she goes, they're not really listening to you. They're saying, what is she wearing?
Right.
What are her clothes like? And what does the
Mhm.
band look like? What is the
Mhm.
rapport here? What's
Mhm.
happening? People want to take it all in. They
Mhm.
observe everything, and it's exciting,
Mhm.
it's interesting, and there's that whole aspect of
Mhm.
being in, as they say in the
Mhm.
musical Hamilton, in the room where it happens, like,
Mhm.
what's going
Right.
on, what's
Mhm.
creating. And that's why
Mhm.
something like people who are great scat artists, and
Mhm.
I do a little bit of scatting live, and I'm,
Mhm.
doing more and more of it. You don't know what's going to happen,
Right.
and that's
Mhm.
thrilling. And I think that's
Mhm.
why people like
Mhm.
jazz, because it's not
Mhm.
really a cabaret or a
Mhm.
musical where
Mhm.
everything is prescribed. And I think
Mhm.
that's fun for me, at least in this
Mhm.
kind of new style of music that
Mhm.
I'm like more free form,
Mhm.
where in a jazz setting you can do what you want. I'm in charge of where the song is
Mhm.
going, like what's the tempo and how many
Mhm.
times are we going to
Right.
repeat it? What am I
Mhm.
going to do? Solo? Am I going to solo? And that
Mhm.
spontaneity, I think, is
Mhm.
really exciting to
Mhm.
people. It's
Right.
exciting to me when I see other performers, and
Mhm.
exciting when I do it, because I don't really know what's going to happen, and
Mhm.
it's a little scary,
Mhm.
definitely, but it's exciting, and I think
Mhm.
people want to feel that spontaneity, and I think
Mhm.
that's important. I don't think that's going away. And I
Mhm.
think as far as AI, it's interesting, they can have AI write music or melody, and some of it's horrible, but I don't think lyric writing, which is really poetry,
Mhm.
is ever going to be replaced. Like really
Right.
stuff you
Because
say.
it needs that personality.
Yeah. It
Mhm.
needs so specific, the human touch of the funny things.
Mhm.
Like there's another song on my Gershwin album, They Can't Take That Away From Me.
Mhm.
The great lyrics that most people know, the way you wear your hat, the
Mhm.
way you sip your tea, the memory of all that. No, no, they can't take that away from me. Those are very specific
Mhm.
things.
Right.
The way your smile just beams, the way you sing off key. I mean, those, a human notices those things.
Right. A computer, even if you're telling it the prompts, it's not going to understand that.
It's little things that a human would recognize in
Mhm.
someone they care about. And so
Mhm.
I feel things like that. I think that's why those songs speak to people. They're
Mhm.
like, every time
Mhm.
I say the way you sing off key, people always laugh because their best friend, their husband, or whatever sings off key. And they're like,
Right.
that's you.
Pokes with the elbow, right? Mhm.
Every time I sing
Mhm.
that song, people are like,
Mhm.
that's you, that's you. So
Mhm.
they really connect with it. And it's just really fun. So I myself have kind of really enjoyed rediscovering these songs, although I do sing pop songs in some of my gigs and more contemporary places for sure. I like, 80 songs and a few things that are on the
Mhm.
radio now. But I can only sing them, as I mentioned earlier, if they have great lyrics.
Right. Mhm.
And some of them do, like,
Grandma approved almost, right? Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, if you could sing it in front of your grandparents,
Yes. Mhm.
16 years ago.
Or your 6-year-old, you know.
Yes. Little kids love this song. When my kids were young, I used to put on musical theater and this kind of music, and they found it
Mhm.
hilarious. I mean,
Mhm.
it tells a story. They
Mhm.
would listen to. I'd put
Right.
on musical
Right.
Oklahoma.
Mhm.
They always laugh
Mhm.
because one of the lines is "Chicks and ducks and geese better scurry when I get you out in the Surrey." I mean, you know that song, Deb.
Right. Mhm.
So funny
Mhm.
because the kids are like, "What? What are they talking about? What are
And
they?"
what's a Surrey? And then you
What's a-
explain, right? Mhm. And they're
Exactly.
like, wait a minute, it's not a car, horse
Not
drawn.
a car. But those lyrics, again, they're so specific
Right.
to that
Mhm.
era and draws people, and they're like,
Mhm.
what are they talking about? So when a lot
Mhm.
of parents would ask me, how do I get my kids into music? And
Mhm.
said, if you're on a car ride, even you're driving them to school, put
Right.
on a musical.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
the story, they will hone and they will
Mhm.
put down their phones of like,
Mhm.
what are they saying? What
Mhm.
are they talking about?
Mhm.
Because it's very specific lyrics.
Mhm.
So it's storytelling again at
Mhm.
its very best. And
Mhm.
but I do get asked that a lot by people who want to either get voice
Mhm.
lessons for their kids or get them into music. I said, you just put
Mhm.
on a musical, one
Mhm.
of the old school musicals.
Right. Right. And it can be an opera. That's a little more. But it's so funny. My mother-in-law was an opera fanatic.
Oh, wow.
And it was so cute because when she was young, she would sit in the car and listen to Texaco Presents.
Oh,
And it
yes.
was the live broadcast, right, of the Met. And it only came across on AM. This is
Okay.
way far long ago. And she would listen until literally the car battery died. And then she'd get in trouble and everything. But so we, after my father-in-law passed, we told her, we said, we will take you to the Met. And she was a member of the Guild, all of these various things. Now, she was a Thomas Hampson groupie, and he is a baritone. She didn't like tenors because they're pretentious. I was like, don't you want to go see Placido? Well, he's pretentious. Okay. And so we told her, pick a performance, and we will take you to see Thomas Hampson. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen Thomas Hampson. Oh my gosh, he's
Yeah.
drop dead gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Totally
Yes.
gorgeous.
Yes. And so, this sweet little lady picks Dr. Faust.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. So it's in German. I mean, all of this. And so, I'm telling her, okay, so, we're going to go out to the Met because that was all that she would consider.
Oh,
If
yeah.
we were going to do this,
That's
she
the
had to go
world.
to the Met.
Yep.
And so she says, well, let's go to a matinee. Okay. And she said, we can fly out in the morning, go to the performance, and fly back. I said, oh, no, no, no. We're not going all the way to New York to not do, several days worth.
Hey.
And so, of course, we did this. We did Tavern on the Green. We did the carriage ride to the
Of
Met. We
course.
did the long dresses. And the performance was in German and different, right? But we had somebody tell us, we had toured the Met, and they gave us the little detail, and we were able to take her backstage, and she met Thomas Hampson.
My gosh, that is
And
really
oh my gosh, and so here is this little lady, and all she does is giggle. But to her, it was it was the highlight of her life. Now,
oh
we
yeah.
did take her to see Thomas Hampson in several other performances. We actually went to Chicago to the Lyric,
Yeah, wow.
and they were performing Thais, which is in French, right?
Okay.
And she says, oh, and that little sopranos part of it, well, that was Renee Fleming. But she was going for Thomas Hampson. But to her, music and especially opera took her back to when she was a little girl. And I think that is the thing with music, as you were saying, it somehow transports us back
Right.
to our first love, our whatever it was. And it's funny because music is very pervasive, and I think a lot of times we don't even think about it, like sports, right? You've got baseball, great example. I'm here in Atlanta with the Braves. All of the big players have their walk-up songs, right? What
Oh,
is played as they walk up?
funny.
Um, and that's, of course, a big
Everybody's got a
variety.
theme song.
Yeah, and I think we all do think about what is our own theme song. And so yeah, it's just I I can't imagine. Well, I mean, you can't imagine a world without music. But it is definitely something that we will always have.
Well, and I think,
Um,
and people talk about, musicians like to talk about also the fact that, music, why was it invented?
right.
Why does it exist?
Hmm.
Is it
Hmm.
necessary? I
Hmm.
mean, people might claim it's necessary for their soul and for
Hmm.
their joy,
Oh yeah, I
but
say that. Hmm.
right, I would too, but it's
Hmm.
not like, the invention of the wheel
No.
or
Hmm.
fire or
Hmm.
like food source,
Hmm.
shelter, but it's important but it
Hmm.
was invented or it came about to bring joy and emotion to people.
Right.
And I remember during the pandemic, driving around and listening to they were playing something from Tchaikovsky. They were playing the Nutcracker music,
Hmm.
and I was in the middle of the summer, and I just burst
They're
into tears.
playing the Nutcracker.
They were playing something on the radio, and I was like, and it was pandemic time, and
Hmm.
emotions were so high, and I just burst into tears, and I
Hmm.
said, "Will I ever hear
Hmm.
live music again?"
Right.
I get choked up thinking about it. Will I be able to sit in the audience at the ballet or a jazz club or anywhere? And that's when people started doing music outside. You know, they were like in Central Park,
Yes.
Riverside Park. I could go there,
Mhm.
hear jazz trio. People felt safe, and you could still experience that joy, and it brought people together. But it's essential. It's changed over time, and I know it's a big business to some people. It is a huge, important
Right.
business. This end of the business is new to me, but it's all it's just important, and it's not going anywhere. And that's what's exciting too, to be part of that legacy. And I feel like I am a little bit part of the legacy now that I have my album out. It came out September 12th. Simply Wonderful. Very exciting. Yes. It was really exciting to figure out how to get myself on Spotify. I mean,
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one thing for me to get my podcast on, right? All I need is an RSS feed, and I just put those on all. And since I don't charge for it, yeah, it's easy peasy for me to do that. But I would imagine getting music, and especially music that you charge for, that's a very complicated process.
Well, I was a learning curve again. I didn't know how people did it. It's not like you can just throw it up, like you said, on YouTube or something. You have to get a music distributor, and then it has to be represented by them, and they have to get they have to get a certain type of the files onto Spotify, and then you have to do all the background stuff, and then you have to do things like write your bio and your photos, and you put something up called a little canvas, which is like a 7-second loop. And I had help getting that. So now I have a music video, which I'm like, I feel silly doing it. I forgot feeling. I dress up like Madonna and like do a music video. It was so funny to me. Like, no, we really need a visual. I said, so they say more people will listen to your music if there's a little visual. So I have a little the canvas loop, and you have to do all these things. So, but once you get out there, it's interesting, people pick it up, they save it. And the whole business of that is like having someone save your song. My single Embraceable You came out, and then, but not for me. And then when you save that, it means more for the algorithm. And so once the algorithm starts picking it up, so that's the business end of it. The algorithm picks it up and starts getting spread around and suggested to people. So now there's a Juliet Ewing radio, which cracks me up because I have songs that are similar to what I have. Like, oh, okay. This is very cool. So that is a whole other end that doesn't exist in like when I was doing theater or music previously. So the business end of it, I find my analytical mind really enjoys that. And that's a lot of fun. So that's at least you see some numbers. And that's a good thing about having, Spotify or YouTube Music or Amazon. You actually see, are people listening to it? And I see them listening all over the world. I was joking that at the very bottom of the list, they give you a list of all the countries. And there's a lot in South America, the United States, and Canada. The very end, I have 3 listeners in Tanzania. I said, who knew?
Right. Yeah. We have listeners in Croatia. I'm like,
I have some listeners in Croatia.
Yeah.
Wow. And I find it, I'm thrilled. Everyone listening to the music, I think it's universal and worldwide. It's really
well, and you don't have to understand what they're saying, right? It's kind of like, we were laughing about Dr. Faust. It is in German. English is a challenge for me. But you understood what, was it dramatic? Was it silly? I mean, back to musicals. For some reason, I'm going to wash that man right out of my hair. It has stuck this morning. I don't know where that earworm came from, but you hear that, and that's lighthearted. You don't have to know what they're saying.
I remember translating the lyrics to that song for my cousins in Italy. I speak Italian. I remember a teenager being over there, and they're saying, what does that mean? I'm like, literally to lavare I capelli, that kind of thing, but it really means to get rid of somebody.
Right. Yes. Kapoof. We don't care anymore.
That's why musicals are so great for people who are either learning English or little kids. That story, that song sticks with you forever, and everyone knows that song. Yeah, that's interesting. If the actor or the singer is doing their job properly, then you will feel the song, understand the song, the gist of it, if they're doing it properly.
Right.
So, even sing in German and French or whatever, people will understand it if we did our jobs properly. And I felt that way when I did our American musicals in English in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. I mean, they all speak, some English, but they laughed at the jokes. They were like a little bit later, but they understood it, and they laughed at the physical comedy, and they understood what was happening because we were doing a good job of presenting it to them. And that's always the artist's challenge.
Right. And the song that just popped into my head that I used to do fairly often, Ave Maria, right? And it is in Latin, Italian.
Latin.
Right. And because it's obviously very deeply religious. And so it is in Latin. And we I mean, like Maria is obviously Mary, but most of the lyrics we don't really understand, but we don't need to,
Don't need them.
and there's those soaring notes and all of them that I can't do anymore. But yeah, we knew, and what I always found interesting, whatever we were performing or wherever I was performing it, was how many people closed their eyes.
Ah, yes.
Right? Because then you knew they were getting into it. But it does tell stories. I mean, one of my favorite ones, I was, singing at a funeral. Funerals are always hard, right? Especially when you know the person. And this person was my second grandmother, and so I knew it was going to be hard. But the way we ended the service was perfect for her. So my husband and several other people were strategically placed. My poor husband, he always gets roped into things like this. And so, we end the funeral, and then we start with the Lawrence Welk theme song. And the people we had strategically placed had bubbles.
Oh my God.
And I mean, right? That was the perfect way for us to remember her.
Yeah.
And it really, but he's like, bubbles, you want me to just blow bubbles. But it really was, I mean, and so people went out of this funeral joyful and right. And I think that is, it's like we've been saying, music tells those stories. And yes, it is a business for you, but it is such a passion. And I mean, that's the thing that we always see.
It's a passion and a joy, and it's a privilege, really, to be able to sing this beautiful music, the Gershwin and other things, All American Songbook, and to go into someone's life for an hour or two, whatever, and to communicate with them and to bring them joy and to make them think of things and to entertain them or make them laugh, make them, feel emotional. It's a real privilege, and I feel it a responsibility. Like when any gig I do, whether it's a high profile gig or, a smaller thing, I give it 1,000%. I said, these people have spent their time and their money, their effort. They came out of their homes. They are here to hear music, and I will give every single thing that I have to these people. And so for me, there's not gigs I won't call them stressful, but there is pressure, but it's always the same to me. It doesn't matter if there's 10 people or 500 people. It does not matter. I prepare the same way. I give 100 and 110, 1,000%, whatever I can give, because it's important to people, and it's important to me. Do the best. I have such respect for this music. Not so much that I can't, have fun with it, but I want.
But that's okay. You're having fun in a respectful way.
It's a certain type of music you would sing within certain rules. I would say, turn these Gershwin songs into, rap music or hip hop. I wouldn't do that.
No.
But it's respect for what the genre is, but then, really giving your best to communicate to these people. And that's, I really love that so much. I never get tired of it. I do not get tired of singing these songs. Maybe my family does. It's sick of me singing. I don't think so, but I will continue to sing them because I love them, and I think they need to be heard.
Yes. Well, this has been absolutely delightful. PJ was right. We needed to chat. I know he's going to get a big head, but that's all right. And so, we will have a link to your website and also to the album in our show notes. But tell us a little bit more about, what it is that you do.
Well, I am a professional vocalist. I've been started out in musical theater and Broadway, and now I'm kind of back in the business singing in jazz clubs in New York City. I sing pretty regularly at Winnie's Jazz Bar in New York City. I'll be there coming up soon, September 25th. My events are on my Spotify link. And I like to sing the American Songbook and a few pop tunes along the way, but I like to really bring those songs back to people's listening schedules and still bring the beautiful songs back to everybody.
I love it. Well, I know that you're going to do a follow-up album, so we will have you on again. And so no pressure. But yeah, so I would love to do that. So do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Well, I would say that it's never too late to, really chase your dreams. My final thing I wanted to do, I've done Broadway and theater and everything, and I really wanted to do an album. So I feel that whoever you are, you got to keep moving forward and challenging yourself to do new things. So that's my advice for the day.
Perfect. I love it. Well, Juliet, this really has been so much fun. I am Deb Creer. I've been having a blast talking with Juliet Ewing. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.